praying this way as parents helps you see your child as a person. Like, not like, there's my baby, or that's a little kid, I got to get him through school or whatever. But it helps you see them as a person from the time they're babies or really young. A person that you're preparing for an abundant adult life, for favor in God's eyes and all that. You're not just praying that they'll find a good husband or wife, but you're praying and preparing them, both your kids and that future spouse, for meaningful adult relationship. And that they'll trust God for who He says they are and become all that God intends for them. And, you know, that just sounds like good discipleship to me.
Welcome to the Everyday Disciple Podcast, where you'll learn how to live with greater intentionality and an integrated faith that naturally fits into every area of life. In other words, discipleship as a lifestyle. This is the stuff your parents, pastors, and seminary professors probably forgot to tell you. And now, here's your host, Caesar Kalinowski.
Hey, Heath, man. It's good to be back. Excited to do this episode.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got the baby girl now, right? So
Is that what caused you to want to go this route?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, little baby
Subliminal.
Remy. Little baby Remy. Got a little granddaughter, first one. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about praying for our kids and for their future spouses and all that stuff. So
I remember hearing like the pastors that every night go in and pray for 10 minutes for their kids, and I've always felt guilt because I haven't done that as well. But I hope every parent is praying for their kids at some point.
I hope so.
And one thing that I've heard from you in the past, and I know you still do this, is praying for your kids' future, and in specific, praying for your kids' spouses.
Yeah.
But this started with you and Tina long ago, right?
Yeah, it did. In fact, I have been already praying for Remy and her future spouse.
Wow.
Really, because I've seen the fruit of it, right? Tina and I have prayed for our son and our two daughters, so Caesar, Kristen, and Justine, and prayed for their, like you mentioned, potential spouses since they were little kids. And now our two oldest, Caesar and Kristen, they're happily married to amazing people. And in both cases, we felt God's favor on that person and on their like budding relationships right away. Right?
Really?
Right away, yeah. Like we've prayed for our youngest daughter, Justine, who's not married, yet, but in this way too. And she's now in a pretty serious and really healthy relationship with a man that may just be, well, we'll have to just see, okay?
All right.
Yeah, I don't give away too much. But let's just say that we're still praying for her, and now we're praying specifically for him too. But we have been for years. We just couldn't put a name or a face to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Now it's starting to come together, huh?
Yeah.
You know, I've, Justine's man doesn't live here, but Daniel does, Kristen's husband, and I've become good friends with him over the last couple of years. And he is a incredible guy.
He's kind of a stud.
Yeah, he is.
Like super good looking, all cross-fitted out. He's a firefighter.
Yeah, funny.
Gentle servant guy. Yeah, he was a good catch.
Yeah, he was a really good catch. And he's now a part of our DNA group that we're in together. And so getting to see that spiritual side come out, it's really cool.
I remember the first time we met Daniel, seriously, like Tina and I asked each other, like, is he the one? I think he might be the guy we've been praying for since Kristen was a baby.
Wow.
Like we really felt that way. And it turns out we were right.
Okay.
I really believe they'll be married forever. He's a strong yet gentle and godly man. He was actually discipled, and he's like the perfect partner for Kristen. Like they really, I couldn't be happier for them. I mean, I thank God for him all the time. And it's pretty much the same way with our son and his beautiful wife, Mari. It took a little longer for them to tie the knot. Kristen and Daniel, it was like right away. They knew it. We all knew it, whatever. Caesar and Mari took a little longer. But our family loved her immediately, and we kept praying over the years that they were dating and during their courtship too.
Really?
Yeah. And so, I want to share today with our listening family 7 blessings and reasons to pray for your child's future and their potential spouse. Okay. And I want you to have these blessings, and they come from this type of prayer. And by the way, before I get into it, I want to give credit and thanks to a buddy of mine, old friend of mine from way back in Illinois. We did tons of stuff at a big church together. Jay Payleitner. He's a great
He was
author.
actually the first guest we've ever had on the show.
Yes, he was too. In fact, I just read his newest book. It's not out yet. He asked me to do a little review of it.
Sure.
Awesome. Yeah, and when that comes out, we'll probably have to talk about it. I loved it. It's a little short read. I shot right through it. Great. Anyway, so I got a lot of this stuff from him because he's got a book called 52 Things to Pray for Your Kids.
Okay.
And I'll try to remember to put that in the show links. And it helped me kind of get my thoughts together on this. Okay. So yeah, and you're right. He's on the show, right?
I can't wait for this, man, because Kathleen and I have a tribe at home that are growing, and I've been.
You sure do.
And so I'm going to be taking notes as we move along here. So
I want to tell you though, I know you like we all could be praying more consistently, dude.
Sure.
But like some of the stuff that I know that you pray for your kids and how you like speak their identity over them and all that when you pray,
every
that's
night.
beautiful stuff, dude. And it's paying off because your kids are great.
Yeah, they're good kids.
They really are.
Yeah,
You
I
should
really
be
do
super proud of how God's blessing you through that. And
hard to see at times. But I
so,
know.
but there's always room for growth. Maybe one of these 7 will spark something for you. Okay.
Cool.
So here's the first one. Praying for your kid's future spouse begins to create a spot in your own heart for that person.
Oh yeah,
You're like
that makes
way
sense.
beforehand. That's why I think I love Daniel like my own son. I've been
Yeah.
praying for that kid his whole life, you know?
Yeah,
So praying for someone you've never met may sound strange, but this person's going to be a new son or daughter in your family for a lifetime, hopefully, right? So start loving them now. Why not?
Yeah.
We get to. God's a God over space and time. So you're like, well, yeah, but it could be 20 years from now. It could be 30. Well, I mean,
keep going. Yeah.
my youngest one's 30. Maybe this guy will be the guy, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. But our relationships with our 2 new family members are close and they're warm and we love them deeply. And it feels like we've known them like a lifetime in some ways,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, in a
not
sense you have.
perfectly. We're still learning a lot, but like that creates a different heart for those people. So when you meet them, you're like, oh man, here they are.
Yeah, and what a neat story too. Like at the wedding or whatever, to be able to say like this is 25 years.
Yep.
Every day we've prayed for this.
Yeah.
That's something I need to get on pretty quickly.
Well, and that's actually sort of the next point. Someday you'll have the pleasure of telling your son or daughter's spouse that you've been praying specifically for them and their family for years. That's another one of those blessings. And I'm telling you, man, it's humbling to know this, and it provides a deep and immediate bond between you.
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel's never had a hard time with me, like, because he knows this, and when we went out and talked about, he wanted to tell me how much he loved my daughter and how amazing she was. He basically asking for her hand in marriage. I'm sure that's one of the things we talked about. I've been praying for her spouse for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, he's got to that's just, that knits you, right? So
Oh, sure.
that's one of those blessings that we're talking about, that you'll get to tell your son or daughter's spouse that you've been praying for them.
Yeah.
It's
It's a commitment, right? Like you're setting, when they're saying their vows, this is a lifelong thing. And if
It's a very different thing. Like, well, I'm going to be watching out for you, and treat him right, treat her right.
keep a gun loaded on the side of my, yeah, come on.
Here's another one.
Okay.
Knowing your own child's personality and needs, you can pray specifically for years, asking God to both prepare their heart and their future spouse's heart in pretty unique ways. All 3 of my kids are so different, right?
Yeah. Same with my 4.
And so I pray for different things. God, help them see the truth of who you are and what you say is true of them in this area of their life. And it's different for each of them. And they're going to need a spouse that understands this and can model that. So this isn't just praying that they'll find a spouse. This is praying the gospel over them and believing God has gone ahead of you and is uniquely shaping their future together.
Yeah. You're right.
I mean, do we believe that God's over the future? Yeah.
Sure. And you're right. Every kid is so different. And so being able to uniquely pray for that future spouse, for the way that they, deal with difficult situations, or the day, like they respond differently. So taking their unique personalities into it is a really cool feature.
Yeah. And I, if you're listening to this going like, well, there's all kinds of stuff I want to be praying for my kids, not just for their future spouse, but this includes that, because I'm praying, and I still do. And they're married and it hasn't stopped, right? But I still pray specifically, uniquely for each of them and for their spouse. Listen, my kids don't have perfect marriages, just like Tina and I don't have a perfect marriage. But the stuff I'm praying now for them in their marriage, I'm praying for each of them, that they'll glorify God and help each other see Him more clearly.
Yep.
And that stuff that's weird or they're fearful about or they hide or tend to not be open and honest about or have trust in, that God will use their unique spouse for that. Something I learned way too late in marriage, though, is that the things about your spouse that are hard for you or that they still bug you after all these years or whatever, God knew that stuff before you got married.
Yeah.
Those are the areas of your life that you're not yet conformed to Christ.
Yeah.
And so, like, we can rail against that stuff, or we can accept it as God's hand in our life to help change our hearts to be more like Jesus. Now, guess what? That's what I'm talking about. You get to pray for those things before and, even after they're married, right?
Yeah. And I'm even thinking too, like how busy life gets at times. So maybe it's even as helpful as, at 8:00 at night, you just set something in your calendar if you need an action item to remind you to do this.
It would change the whole trajectory, I believe, of your family and even how you feel about your kids and their spouses when they finally have them. If you prayed 2 minutes
Yeah.
A few times a week, a day
Yeah.
for this, or something.
Journal it down.
No kidding.
Yeah. That's good, man.
All right, here's another one. Praying these prayers together as parents, right?
Mhm.
So, we're going to pray separately. Tina and I pray separately for the kids. I don't know every time she's praying, but we pray together too.
Sure.
And with your child, okay?
Yeah.
So, listen, while you're praying with them, and you're praying about their future spouse and certain areas of their heart and all that kind of stuff, helps to instill a sense of God's sovereignty in them concerning their future and his plans for them. Like when you're praying with your kids for their future,
Yeah.
it sort of says God's there, and it starts to help them trust him for their future.
Oh, that's
It's not
cool.
like, hey, you go out and you try to put up a mask and try to attract the best possible spouse you can.
Yep.
And then you try to make the best possible life you can and try to wedge a little guy. Like, no, from when I was little, I knew my folks were praying kind of thing
Sure.
about specific things about my future, and that God would shape this man or this woman in certain unique ways that our marriage and our kids would glorify God. That just changes their understanding of God's sovereignty for their future, right?
Yeah.
See, because God cares about their yesterdays, but he also cares about today and all of their tomorrows.
Yeah.
Put that on like a throw rug or something.
It also reminds them too, when they are married in the midst of difficult times, like not to throw in the towel, because this is something that the parents have prayed for years. This isn't.
Which means God's in that, so he must be working something out. That's
Yeah.
right.
No, it's
Beautiful,
good.
man. Powerful.
All right, next one.
Okay, next one. Pray with your child for specific godly qualities to grow and mature in their hope for a spouse. It's like you can even ask about, what do you want in a spouse?
Yeah.
Like, what would you like in a husband, or what would you like to see in your wife?
Sure.
And don't let them get off with the simple, like, well, I want to be just like you, or I want to be like mom.
Yeah.
Or like, what is it about mom that
Yeah,
you'd
like
want?
call out those attributes. Yeah.
And this teaches them what to look for as they begin to date more seriously and consider a marriage partner for life.
Huh.
See, if you've been talking about that and say, well, I want to pray for that. You want that in a guy, honey? God's put that desire in your heart?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, get to the thing behind the thing. I'm
Yep.
going to be praying for that. Let's pray right now. That teaches them to, what they should be looking for. So it's not like, well, I want to do with a six pack and I want him to have a hot car and I don't want to ever have to work. It's like, well, maybe, but there's better things to pray for.
There's only
right?
so many Brad Pitts.
So, discuss and pray with them about love and sex and friendship and marriage, obviously age appropriate, right?
Sure.
These are important things in life that often go undiscussed with our kids,
Yep.
period. Like they really do. You're like, well, what do you think? Yeah, he's a pretty good looking guy. I guess he's got a good job. It's all
Yeah.
that kind of menial stuff. And it happens at like 25
Yep.
or 18 or whatever. Like start when they're young,
Yeah.
right? And you get to, you get to.
Well, and I love the idea that you get to, those qualities you can help you form your kids into, when they're thinking like, I just want somebody's, smoking hot. And you can go, well, let's step back because, beauty is fleeting.
What is
and-
smoking hot?
Yeah, exactly.
What's that
And you
even
can
mean?
actually
Yeah.
correct their hearts and what they're
Yeah.
sharing there.
Yeah. Hey, before I even go on, because I don't want to forget it,
Yeah.
I put together a little download of all these,
Oh, cool.
okay? Like where you can get all of these. It's a little guide called How to Pray for Your Child's Future Spouse.
Okay.
And so it's free download. You can get that. I put a little quick URL together. If folks want to get it, it's free download. everydaydisciple.com/pray.
Okay.
Enter. Boom. It'll take you to the little thing. Fill it out. Download it. Okay?
We're giving stuff away every week, man.
I
That's
know,
great.
man. Try to help out. Okay. Next
Okay.
one. Pray not only for the future spouse, but pray also for their family of origin.
Oh, that's good.
Okay? Here's why. Remember, their family shapes them in profound ways.
Yeah.
And that family is going to also become a part of your extended family.
Hmm.
Not only physically, if they're even around or maybe at holidays only or whatever, but if they live near you, but their perspective on life
Yep.
and who God is and how they speak to their kids
Yep.
and all of that is going to be a part of your family life now.
Absolutely.
And trust me now that my kids have been married for a few years each.
It gets complex.
It's complex. That's a
Yep.
good word for it. It's complex. And so I wished I had prayed more for their spouses. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so that like when they were being raised, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
and so not only pray for your kid's future spouse, but pray for their family of origin, and you'll be blessed when all the juggling of life and holidays, you're trying to figure that out, and hopefully grandkids are around.
Yeah.
It's all going to be made easier by your love for them too. So if when you meet their parents, you're like, I love these people
Yeah.
because I love their son.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? And that's how it was like with Daniel and his parents. It took us about 2 times a meeting where it's like, that's our family.
Really?
They're our family.
Is that fast? Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, holiday stuff together. Like, come on over for any of it. Come over. It's like, and it felt
Wow.
just like ours. It felt like we had known each other like for a really long time.
Wow.
It just did.
That's so cool.
It just really did.
No, you're right.
So, I mean, see, now I don't know who's thinking of these things, but I'm telling you, there's fruit in it. There's blessings, parents.
Sure.
You know,
No,
there's
pray
blessings.
for their family.
And by the way, if you're listening to this going, well, I'm not married yet, but I'm hoping, and maybe there's a significant other in there. You're kind of hoping it'll be that, or maybe there's not yet. Guess what? You still get to pray for your kids and for your spouse that God's preparing. As we looked at our kids' lives growing up and like, oh, I want to be married and I'm not, and there's no good guys, or I can't find the right, whatever. It's like, well, maybe God's still preparing them, or maybe God's still preparing you, honey.
That's good.
Right. And that's really the truth of it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Now you look back over time, you go like, you weren't ready for that yet.
Yep.
That, you were still dealing with that back then. You want to be married so bad when you're 18 or 20 or, or whatever. I mean, everybody's different, right? But anyway.
That's a great point.
Okay, here's the last one. When you pray for your child to submit to and wait on God's timing for marriage, so this is a timing prayer, right? You take the pressure off of them in their dating relationships. Like,
it's
like
good.
So if their whole life it's like, God, I don't know when that's going to come, or if they're going to have college or career, or you're going to have to travel the world or be a missionary here, but like, Lord, you've given them a desire to be married, and we're just trusting you for the timing, because you might have that person now glorifying you in some other way, or you're still working on their heart, like we were just saying, wherever. So it takes the pressure off of them in their dating relationships.
That's so good,
right? And we've often told our kid, if this is the one. Like, they're like, oh, I think this might be, if this is the one, then there's no need to rush into things.
Yep.
Because if this is God's choice for you for the rest of your life, then you can't mess it up. Right? He's sovereign. And if it's not his perfect choice for you, right, then you certainly don't want this relationship.
Yeah. Tread slowly.
Yeah, right. So there's no need to rush it. And we had those conversations and prayed that stuff when they were very, very little. And, my kids, let's see, they were all late in their 20s. I think my son was maybe even 30, Yeah,
married.
And it's not because they're like, whoa, no one would want, they're gorgeous, they're nice, they, they love God and people. I mean, but they never felt the need to rush into it. They just didn't. They were secure in their identity by His grace,
Sure, the pressure's not on.
But we've been doing these kind of prayers, man, for decades.
Yeah.
So I'm just passing it on. I'm not trying to pat myself on the shoulder or teen on the shoulder. I'm just,
Yeah, I love that, man. And like you said, your kids are great. They married great people. Proof's in the pudding. You're not speaking blindly.
They're working out their stuff. They're not like angels, perfect, but it's beautiful. It really is. So I guess kind of wrapping up, I'll say that praying this way as parents helps you see your child as a person. Like, not like, there's my baby, or that's a little kid, I got to get him through school or whatever. But it helps you see them as a person from the time they're babies or really young. A person that you're preparing for an abundant adult life, for favor in God's eyes and all that. You're not just praying that they'll find a good husband or wife, but you're praying and preparing them, both your kids and that future spouse, for meaningful adult relationship, and that they'll trust God for who He says they are and become all that God intends for them. And, that just sounds like good discipleship to me.
Right? I agree, man.
So I'm sure there's a lot more ways to pray for your kids, here, and benefits that can be realized. But hopefully this is enough to encourage folks to move forward in this area of a real parenting privilege. It really, really is.
And if we haven't already given away enough free stuff, let's get to the big three and give away some more, right?
Why not?
We always want to leave you with the big three takeaways from today's topic. So if nothing else, things we don't want you to miss.
Every week you can get a printable PDF of the week's big three as a free download. We always do that by going to everydaydisciple.com/big3, BIG3.
Here's the big three for this week. Praying for your child's future shows that you trust God for their lives.
Amen.
Right? Because if you didn't, you wouldn't pray for the future.
Yep.
It's because it's too easy to fall into the habit of only praying for help when things go bad in our life or in the life of our child. But see, God does truly care about their yesterdays, todays, and all of their tomorrows. So what a privilege it is to bring your child and their future spouse and family before the throne of God. Right?
Amen.
And it really is it's showing that you trust God.
Yep.
Like, not just like He's a genie, right? Second one. God's love for our kids far surpasses our parenting skills.
Amen. Yeah.
Oh, praise God.
Yeah.
Okay, none of us are perfect parents or pray as consistently for our kids as we could, but please believe that God desires that your children would grow up to know Him and trust Him and bring Him great glory with their lives. He does, okay? And He's able to accomplish that. So His desire to bless them is bigger than your performance as a parent. And He has the power and resources to do it.
Yeah.
Like we don't always, so He does, okay?
Love that.
All right, number 3, start making prayer for your child's future and their future spouse and family a regular rhythm today. You can do that.
Yep.
Okay? Download that free guide.
everydaydisciple.com/pray
for how to start praying this way. And then here's what I'd suggest. Just take one of the 7 ways each day, maybe before you go to bed. And like you were suggesting, maybe you need to put a little reminder, whatever time, or put a Post-it, right by your light switch next to your bed or whatever, you work it out.
Yeah.
And then pray in this manner throughout the week. Just one of those each week. Hey, I'm praying for this and I'm praying for that tonight. And if you miss one, you miss one. But wouldn't it be amazing if, like, more days than not, you prayed for one of these things in one of these ways? And I truly believe that God will honor your prayers, okay? Because they're already in line with his will.
Yep.
Yeah. Right? And you'll be grateful and amazed at the favor and blessings that he's going to pour into your children's lives.
Yeah.
Tina and I sit around all the time just going, I can't believe how blessed our kids' lives are in all kinds of ways that, like, beyond our marriage and early years. And even now, it's just like, and favor too, like their homes and just, they're not stressing about money and all the things. And I'm just like, God, that's your favor.
Yeah.
And so we're praying in his will, man, is this the way to go.
I love it.
Awesome, man. Pretty timely little episode, pretty short and sweet, huh?
Yes. Snappy.
Good. Making up for some of the long
Nice and snappy. Yeah.
Okay, I hope you'll join me again next week and every week as we continue to look at how discipleship fits into all of life and how you can lead others in this way of life, making it fun and reproducible as you go. All right? I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for joining us today. For more information on this show and to get loads of free discipleship resources, visit everydaydisciple.com. And remember, you really can live with the spiritual freedom and relational peace that Jesus promised every day.